in a way, led to where I am today. So I'm incredibly grateful. Scott Jovenisian was an amazing character. He was a fun guy. Again, spearheaded the Connecticut Street Fighter community. May he rest in peace. I hope that, obviously that his family and everyone, my condolences are with you. And that's it. Okay?
Dude, don't fucking publicize somebody's death. Are you fucking serious? You don't do that, man.
And the bigger issue is, like, he never said anything back to you.
Doesn't say anything back to me, but dude, don't publicize.
Thanks for the information. I'll put this in the video, but I'm not going to say nothing to you.
Not only that, what does he do? He brings up T, right? Now, T at the time was like one of the greatest Street Fighter players in our area. If he was alive, he probably would have been one of the top players in the country, okay? And he starts fucking talking about this guy, right? So what does that do? Naturally, in our circle of friends, everybody is fucking fuming because there was no need to bring up T. There was no need to bring up Scott. There's no need to bring up people's deaths and publicize it and make money off of it. There's no need for that, man. And he did. You have no respect for people that are alive, for fucking people that are dead. You don't give a shit about anybody but yourself.
So there you go.
I thought a long time about how I was going to respond to this part. Rather than directly respond to it, I think what I like to do is I'd like to tell you a story. Quick one. About me growing up in Connecticut and, going to arcades and having that first real feeling of like belonging in a group. Because when I was young, I didn't feel that way. It felt like I was kind of like an outcast where I grew up. When I went to arcades to play video games, I kind of felt like, because I had some skill, that I finally kind of belonged somewhere, like we all liked Street Fighter and we were all competing against each other and all that. I never thought that playing Street Fighter was going to change my life. How crazy, right? And it did, in a really good way, in the long run. Okay, in the long run. I think what I said there at the end of the video still stands true today, that if it wasn't for me going to an arcade and playing Street Fighter and then being convinced by the people there to go out and do other things with my life, go play in another state, do this and do that. That really was the formative time for me to be a person who was more outgoing. I was an introvert when I was a kid, okay? And it was going to arcades and playing Street Fighter that kind of gave me that feeling of, wow, people like me because I have skill in Street Fighter and stuff, And T. Carter was my rival at my local arcade, What's Your Game, in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And we grew up playing Street Fighter together over the years, every version, okay? I told a heartfelt story in that video, that tribute to Scott, about how Scott introduced T to competitive Street Fighter, and then T introduced me, okay? And it changed my life. It really did. I started traveling. I started being more outgoing, meeting people, having good relationships, even though we've already gone around about the trolling topic of how bad that was when I was in competitive Street Fighter as well. That's the other video. That's the Down the Rabbit Hole video about me. If you want to look at that react, I explain that in full. But that was, I really look back at that time so positively. I do. Scott was such a unique dude. T was such a unique guy. And they're not with us anymore. And that's not fair. There were positive influences on this planet. And they're not with us anymore. That's life, man. The best of us get taken way too early. And the rest of us are just stuck here, right? But previous to me making this video about ska, which I didn't make a video about ska, let me clarify that. That's a segment of a podcast that I did. One segment, okay? Was the podcast monetized? Of course it was. Everything that I put out was monetized at that time. It's how I made my living, okay? I wasn't doing interactive streams with contributions during them at that time. Everything at that point was ad revenue. That's how I made my life, my living, okay? I paid for everything. And basically, I wanted to do a tribute to him in the best way that I could, knowing that well that my audience was not going to know who he was, right? And I did the same thing with T, by the way. And I don't have that for you. I don't want to play that for you. That's already been that's not the subject matter of this video that we're reacting to today, okay? But basically, I did a T tribute, and in the T tribute, this is something when people always wanted me to talk about on my podcast about my past and stories about my past. And in the past, someone, because I was known on YouTube, obviously, I was a known YouTuber, and people knew from over the years of me talking about my old formative days as Street Fighter that I was friends with this kid T Carter before he had passed. Someone came to me one day at not a tournament, excuse me, I think it was a convention, it could have been a tournament, and they handed me a packet of photos. The packet of photos was his personal packet. He said, "Phil, I want you to have this." I said, "What is this?" He goes, "You know, these are pictures of T, and actually Scott's in a couple of them too." And he says, "These are pictures that I want you to have because you are known on YouTube." And he says, T was such a beautiful guy. I'm not talking about his looks. His personality. He was outgoing. He was vibrant. He was full of energy. He was the nicest guy. He had a passion for Street Fighter. He was the best player in Connecticut. The entire time he was alive, he was the best player in Connecticut. Okay? He said, "I'd like you to have these pictures because I know you were a friend with T. And you have the ability on YouTube. You have the reach, the clout. You can share his story with people on the internet. So, not only a lot of people know about T, because he didn't get to live that long. And you can be the person to tell us his story." So I did. I made a video on a podcast just like that. And I had scanned the pictures into my computer. Okay? And I shared it with the world. The podcast doesn't get a lot of views. Okay? The podcast maybe got 10,000, maybe 20,000 views tops. Okay? I thought I did a good job doing a tribute to T. All right? And I did as best I could. Now, I'm going to tell you guys something that nobody knows. I was haunted by T's death for a very long time. I actually feel like it was one of the reasons why I originally had depression. Because it happened to me at a time in my life when, my God, I hadn't dealt with death or loss. And although everyone in Connecticut was hurting at the time when he died, I blamed myself for it. I don't know if I ever told this story before to anyone. But the day when T died, I met him at the mall before he was murdered. And he was saying to me, "Oh, we're going to go over someone's house and we're going to play some games or whatever." And I had a car, by the way, at the time. I had a car. And he basically offered, "Hey, you want to come with us or whatever?" And I was like, no, I couldn't or whatever. I actually don't remember the specifics. And he was like, "All right, cool." Because I was thinking maybe I could get a ride with you if you could drive us over there or whatever. And I was like, "No, I can't do it. I'm busy or whatever. Who knows? There's a kid who I've seen a million times before. I'm going to see him a million times again in my life, right?" That day, he was walking home from playing Street Fighter at this kid's house. and a gang member decided to shoot him for no reason. I guess, there's all kinds of guesses, and I guess the rumor that hit the streets was that this gang member, this was their initiation. Oh, prove that you're hard enough to be part of our gang by just murdering someone in the fucking street walking home. He got shot. Okay? And I blame myself because I said if I had hung out with T that day and I had driven him to his friend's house, I could have driven him home. And maybe he wouldn't have got shot. Now, of course, that's ridiculous. I didn't shoot the kid, right? We all know we're all rational people here. We're rational adults. But this is what happens in your fucking head, okay? And he was my best Street Fighter friend at the time. We were rivals. I always said, like, I was Ken and he was Ryu, because Ryu was the better one out of the two, right? And basically, this was a major problem in my head. It fucked me up for a very long time, to the point where until I fucking moved out of Connecticut, all right? Until I moved out of Connecticut, it was haunting me. It was causing me mental problems. Before I moved out of Connecticut, I drove to his grave and couldn't get out of the car. I didn't say goodbye before I left because I couldn't do it, because I was too fucking weak, because I was so haunted at losing this guy. And this was many years later. He died in the late 90s. This was 2014, and I couldn't do it, okay? So when I made that tribute about T, all right, I was trying to make up for it. I was trying to be like, I was so sorry that I couldn't say goodbye to him because I wasn't man enough to do it. And I wanted to make a tribute video about it. And I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought better for more people on this planet to know about T than less. All right? Okay? When I made that tribute to T in that Hate Live podcast, okay, I received more hate towards me than I think I'd ever dealt with before in my life. My trolls basically spun it and said, you have monetized your friend's death. You are scum. You're a piece of shit. All right? I actually had a couple people who reached out to me after I did that tribute to T and said, Phil, thank you, because we knew T back in the day, and seeing those pictures put a smile on our face and we remembered him, okay? And that was really nice of you to do it that way, because you didn't have to, and, now more people know T's story. So people who knew T were contacting me and thanking me, all right? Now, you say I monetized someone's death, all right? I don't know how worse you could be of a person to say something like that, all right? So, here we are years later, all right? And Howard, who I have not spoken with since I moved, all he's doing is sending me these arbitrary group texts to everyone. Oh, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, this and that, Happy Thanksgiving, yada, 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 right? I know it's all bullshit, because we already talked about it. I don't even have to re-explore it. We just talked about all that. I felt like that he had this resentment towards me for years and years before I moved and all of that, okay? So Howard, the end of 2014, sends me a text, okay? Scott passed away. That's it. That's all the text says, okay? Doesn't say, hi, how you doing? Just says, Scott passed away, all right? Howard thinks that I take that piece of information to go make a monetized video for personal gain. That's what he's saying literally in this video, okay? That's what he's saying, okay? It's what he just said, okay? All right? Just to reiterate here, this video we just watched, the Hate Live podcast, got 11,000 views on YouTube, okay? I don't even make $2 per 1,000 views anymore on YouTube at this point, all right? Arguably, this video maybe made, I don't know, $10, no exaggeration, probably $10, $15 tops for the entire podcast, the 2-hour video. The video is a 2+ hour podcast. This is one segment of said podcast, okay? So, he feels that I monetized the death of Scott, and that I'm a horrible person because I did it, okay? And he says, to reiterate, oh, not just me, it's everyone in our friend group, everyone back home, My nose is disgusting. Please, let me blow my nose quickly before I continue, because this is gross. Okay. Oh man. Oh. Yuck. Oh. Okay. That's better. Now we can continue. Okay. Howard says, everyone back home hates me too for doing it. Because I brought up Scott, I brought up T, I publicized Scott's death. I'm a horrible person who only cares about himself. Again, multiple times he's already said this in this video. Okay? Now, you guys just saw the podcast segment, right? And you saw it. It's in context now. Okay? So, you didn't... If you were just watching this video, all right? If you were just watching this video with no context provided, what would you think? This is hypothetical. You don't have to answer me. I'm just saying, think in your head. If you didn't know the context, okay, what would you think? What was the video? What did I say? Oh my goodness, right? Here's what I think. If I didn't see the context, I would have thought I made a video talking, like sensationalized video, an expose on how my friend Scott has passed away, sensationalizing it, talking about how he passed, which I don't do in the video, by the way. I mean, shit. He says, I monetized it. You think, the way he's saying it, I created t-shirts on the internet with Scott's face on them, saying, R.I.P. Scott. You know, Street Fighter legend forever. And I was selling these shirts with his face on them on the internet, making monstrous profits and using his likeness and fucking about being a horrible scumbag person, making tons of money, right? Wow. I monetized Scott's death. I had already gotten shit for making the tribute about T in a previous podcast. So you might say to yourself, why would Phil, if I already got that hate, if he already got all that shit tossed his way, why would he make a second podcast when Scott passed away? Someone who was very much in that close circle of friends, all right? In order to, you know, he's going to get the same, he knows he's going to get the same shit. The same trolls are going to say the same thing. The same people are going to do the same thing. And they're going to say it's the second time he did it, right? Sorry, I got post-nasal drip. Okay? Why did I do it? Because I don't care about what they say. I care about Scott. I want more people to know about Scott. I care about the memory of Scott. One of the most awesome people I met in the Street Fighter community. The guy who I literally say in that video, if it weren't for him actually saying, hey, Phil, stop playing Street Fighter in Connecticut. Go to 8 on the Break in Dunedin, New Jersey and play Street Fighter there. If he had never said that to me and I never listened to him, likely I never would have started playing competitive Street Fighter and traveling. I never would have gotten the confidence I had to be in front of people. I never would have been able to do things that I did in my work life and my personal life. I never would have ever placed at Evo. I never would have turned on a camera and talked to it. I never would have live streamed. I never would have done any of these things. Excuse me. Ever, any of them. If it wasn't for Scott. Okay? Now, were there ads on that podcast? Of course there were. There's ads on every video I had. I was still partnered with Machinima at the time. And so all the videos that I had those ads on them, you know. And I could have removed the ads. All right? Personally, I just don't see, I mean, I'll be honest here, I don't see the big deal. When you're doing a 2-hour podcast, a 3-hour podcast, and you're doing one tribute segment to someone, all right? does that mean that the whole thing has to be, you know, demonetized? And you can argue either way. That's up to you. You can argue that. That's fine. You can say, yes, it should be. All right. My take on it is, if you're going to do that, then separate that portion and make a whole video just about that tribute and then demonetize that tribute. All right. But take a look at shows. And by the way, this is not an equivalent comparison, but take a look at like the Oscars. Every year at the Oscars, there's a big tribute segment. All the big people, you know, all the prominent actors we have lost this year, right? And they run the segment. It's a big tribute, a well-to-do, shows all their great roles or whatever, okay? Is the Oscars demonetized? Did they say, well, because we're doing a tribute on our show today of those who we lost this year, we care about a lot, we miss, we're not going to have any advertisers on the show? I'm not aware of that happening, okay? At all. Okay? So, I'm just, and that's the only comparison I can really make, all right? Internet content creation is a new thing for everybody, all right? But for me, I'm doing a 2 or 3 hour podcast. That's the segment I put out. That was it. You saw it word for word. That wasn't edited. That's the segment. Excuse me. Howard comes out in this video, tells me that basically I'm an awful person who only cares about himself. I publicized and monetized Scott's death. Did that sound like I was publicizing the death of a friend? Right? Really. And again, I wasn't breaking the bank. I didn't make a ton of money. It was 11,000 views on that video. So maybe I made $10, 15 maybe at the time. Who knows? I don't care. That wasn't what it was about. Okay, it was one segment, a tribute show, and I much rather would have people know about Scott than not, which is why that was in that show. You understand? So, the actual truthful part about this is that Howard says, or the reason I think Howard bring this up, he's upset with me because he sent me a text to say Scott passed away. I didn't respond to him because I wasn't responding to anything from him because he'd been a jackass to me at the end there before I moved. Excuse me. And basically, he's personally insulted at that. Okay? Now, Howard was not the first person to text me about Scott's death. Howard has a very overinflated sense of importance in my life. Okay? He does. I had already received 2 other texts about Scott's death from people previously in the Street Fighter community who knew Scott way better than Howard did. I knew Scott way better than Howard did. All right? I was there in the formative years of Street Fighter in Connecticut. I was in the arcades with T and Scott. I was traveling to tournaments with Scott back in the day. ECC and all of that. I spent way more time with Scott than Howard ever did. Okay? For him to basically say something like this, you would think, oh, this was a friend and we all were equally spending time with this guy and he was our old buddy. He was my old buddy. He wasn't Howard's old buddy. He didn't know him from back in the day. Howard didn't know Scott, all right, in any kind of a major capacity until much later. He knew of him, but was Howard over Scott's house playing Street Fighter on the cabinet with T? No, he was not. He was never invited. He wasn't going to the tournaments with us, okay? Howard has absolutely no right to make claim to the rights to say, I had the right to tell you about someone's passing, and because you didn't respond to me about it, you're an asshole. Okay? He doesn't. All right? I already heard about Scott's passing from several other people who knew Scott way better than Howard. Howard was essentially passing info through the grapevine late. All right? And then takes it upon himself to actually be upset because apparently he didn't get credit for it. Right? He didn't get credit for it. Even though in that video, I actually said, if you didn't pay attention to it, Howard texted me and said that Scott had passed away. And I said, and others, because it's true. Others, you wouldn't know the others. You guys don't know the others. It's old school people from the Street Fighter community. You wouldn't know them. Why would I mention them in the video? Okay? So, to me, this is the ultimate hit below the belt. This is, if you want to say all the things they already said about the video, up to this point, 100% true. true, I don't know how you can actually defend this long video. This is insanely hurtful to me. This is actually like, I'm not kidding you. Alright, I'm not exaggerating. I don't want